He's back again. My ex-Christian rapper turned atheist comedian is going to give you his thoughts on Christian hip-hop. Don't you go anywhere.
Terrible.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Ruslan. I'm a hip-hop artist, creative entrepreneur. This channel exists to encourage, empower, inspire you to live out God's dream for your life. KingsDreamENT.com for all things. Lately, I've been having one of my favorite people on the channel, having some interesting conversation, and he is someone who used to be a Christian rapper. He is no longer a Christian rapper. He is no longer a Christian. He is now an atheist comedian. You can go watch my first interview with him.
I'm just a comedian.
Who happens to be an atheist. Listen, it's better for the title. It's better for the title, okay? Okay.
He's just juicing this shit.
Definitely. By the way, hide your kids, hide your wife. There's probably gonna be some explicit content in this. We're not gonna censor him. We're gonna let him go and just be himself. Rufat Ageyev.
Hey, man, when you say I used to be a Christian rapper, I was so unsuccessful and I didn't sell any records. I did nothing. I didn't go on any tours. So like, what did I Christian rapper, barely.
We gonna bring Rufat. I'm hoping to, as we piece together some of these shows, me and him are gonna do this live, this kind of conversation before, and he's gonna do his stand-up.
I'm gonna do my old Christian rap. That's what I'm gonna do.
I hope not. But we're gonna do this live, hopefully, and he's gonna do a stand-up thing. And so I'm also kind of warming you guys up because I think as we have conversations, we talk to people we may disagree with on some big fundamental things that we would also press into relationship and context and community to know the nuance of these different things. And so that's why he's on here. Hopefully, this demonstrates to you guys how to be in relationship and community with people you disagree with. We're gonna take this shindig on the road.
We all agree Jesus Christ is Lord and he's our Savior and he's the only way to heaven. And if you don't agree with that, you're going to hell.
I heard it from the man himself. He just rededicated his life back to Jesus. That's actually not funny. All right, so you started Christian rapping. You were pretty young. You were in
13
in the Florida area. You got mentored by a couple different people.
Yeah, but the mentored. I would say the people that mentored me was Los One and Sabe from The Strength, who were signed to Crossover Records.
So what's his Urban D? Pastor
D.
Tommy.
He was not my mentor. He thought I should quit.
He told you to quit rapping?
No, he didn't quit. He didn't tell me. He told me we had this discussion. He said I was too prideful. But then somebody who I had met, right, and was very like close to, and I probably need to get back in contact with him and just to see how they're doing, is Corey Red and Precise. Yeah. Love those dudes. They were from New York. They always brought it. They were always real. And you know what a crazy thing is? We went out one night when I was younger, and they told me, he was like, we see you, and I could tell that one day the devil's gonna try to make it that you don't believe, like Anakin. You're gonna be persuaded to go to the dark side.
Really, they said this to you?
So the prophecy is true.
Why did y'all say that? I say it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. He believed it. Now look what you did. Corey Red and Precise.
No.
What were your impressions of coming up in the Christian rap scene on a smaller scale, indie scale, as a young kid? What were your impressions of it, especially now in hindsight?
Well, I mean, when I came up, there was the big people were like Corey Red and Precise. They were like the real stuff, and they were refreshing to listen to because they rapped just as good as like the East Coast rappers, but they were also very real, and they would like talk about selling drugs and stuff like that. I like that. Then you had your LA symphonies, like your Pigeon Johns, which they were funny, and then you were like, well, are they Christian? Are they not Christian? They're cool. 4th Avenue Jones.
Shout out to Ahmad. I'm gonna have him on the channel.
I love that dude. yeah, you had people like, does he still believe in Jesus?
I don't know, but his story. I'll tell you about his story. He ended up quitting 4th Avenue Jones. They were on tour overseas.
Went to college.
Went to Long Beach Community College. Graduated as the valedictorian. Went to Stanford. Killed it. Went to on a full ride scholarship. Then I believe he's currently like a psychiatrist at USC right now.
That's beautiful. That's
really cool
beautiful.
story. So, and he's still doing music. So I mean, we actually reconnected recently.
That's
so I'm
really
trying to have him
beautiful.
on the channel.
Yeah, but like you had those type of folks,
Yep.
and then you had cross movement,
That's right.
and you know you had people like The Truth. I think what's that dude from Houston? There was like Lacroix was rapping at that point
Lacroix.
a little bit, but then you had this dude from Houston. I forget who he was.
Houston.
Yeah, there was a Houston dude. I don't know, man. Some
I don't
dude.
remember anybody.
But he had good music.
Okay.
He was good. Lil Tay or something. I don't know.
Just let's say. All right. So you're coming up in this thing, Christian hip hop. This is mid 2000s, early 2000s, mid 2000s.
Yeah, late 90s. No, not late 90s. Yeah. Early 2000s. Early 2000s. I would say early 2000s, like up until 2008.
What was your what was your impression of that era of Christian hip hop in hindsight?
Well, when I was getting off and wasn't like doing Christian hip hop anymore and didn't want to go by that title and just wanted to just be like a Christian that raps, that was always my big thing. I was like, I'm not a Christian rapper, I'm a Christian that raps.
Why you say it like that though?
I don't know. That's kind of like how my inner dialogue sounds. Cross movement was getting caught up in infidelity, adultery, and all of the things that they told me not to do, they were doing. And it was weird. It was really weird, man. And, people were sleeping with other people's wives, and it just got weird. And then I think that's when Lacroix came up and took advantage of a
Dad, you said
crumbling...
advantage. That's kind of harsh.
Yeah, but he was... let's be for real. Lacroix was like one of the first, even though I didn't... sorry, Lacroix, I didn't really listen at that point. He's, from what I know, great dude, but he was more so like accepted by like, secular DJs and stuff like that. And that's the last I've heard of like Christian rap. One of his artists, actually, we were in St. Petersburg together. Because that's where I grew up.
Shout out to KB.
KB, who thought I was a fake Christian as well. Yeah.
And he was right.
You were right, KB. No, I was a real Christian. I was like really into my faith. But he, again, like I was like, I'm a Christian that raps, I'm not a Christian rapper, and he was like, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. He was hype. And I liked Jay-Z a lot.
You and me both.
Yeah.
So, this is the era that you're growing up in. Cross movement is kind of big. You're saying that because of how explicit they were about Jesus, and then the moral breakdown of some of the members and the label mates, that it kind of
I remember being at Den. Well, it didn't confuse me. I just thought it was corny from the onslaught. And even though like the truth was cool or whatever, I remember being in like a Denny's or an IHOP, because after like the crossover concerts, everybody would go to like one of those, I forget, it was like a Denny's or whatnot. And I remember sitting there chatting it up with Red and Precise and kind of like making fun of how corny them dudes looked in their videos with like, they were like opening up their Bibles and rapping, and they had like the priest collars, and like them dudes are corny, man.
So you thought they were corny back then?
I thought they were corny from the get-go.
Why?
Because I was hanging out with Corey Red and Precise. They're from New York. They've been stabbed and stuff. Like, I found Jesus when I was bleeding out of my kidney. It was cool. Like, it was great.
Oh, man. So, that's interesting. I'm gonna have Manny on the channel. The Truth. I'm gonna have The Truth on the channel.
Okay. Tell him I'm sorry for everything I've ever said about him.
Yeah, he probably doesn't care. He's actually a really cool dude. We're friends now. I don't really know the rest of those guys. I've chopped it up with Ambassador a few times, and they're definitely
the Ambassador. That was the That was like one of the one that I did like a lot. Now.
He could rap, bro.
Yeah,
Both of them dudes can rap. They are both definitely having gone through what they've gone through in terms of like being at the pinnacle of success within the Christian hip hop space and then kind of losing it all and seeing it all crumble. They're definitely different guys. Like definitely super approachable now, humble, just great dudes. You know what I'm saying? At least the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know what their views are in terms of like the methodology or any of that. I don't think they're as like stern about like some of those views that they held back then. But I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to have a conversation with them about that. Now, as someone who is not a part of Christian hip hop, and you haven't been a part of Christian hip hop for the better part of what, about 10 years?
Oh, well, longer than that.
Has it been longer than that?
Yeah.
When did you stop rapping?
I stopped rapping when I was 27, and I was already like, for a good like 6 years, 7 years, like just like rapping like on my own. You know what I mean?
So what is your thoughts of Christian hip hop now in terms of like you still have some insight? You're around me a lot. You know what I'm saying? You've been around a handful of other artists. What's your thoughts about just kind of where the community is now?
I think Chance, in a weird way, kind of like, I don't know. I if anything, I want to know what Christians feel about Chance. How he kind of like not co-opted it, but like when every Christian rapper was trying to sound like a trap artist and was like, I don't know, zooming for Jesus and being all and like just trying not to be like quote unquote Christian and preachy. Chance is like took that and he was like, nah, I love Fred Hammond, I love so and so, and he like fully went into it and the world accepted it. That was amazing to me, and I actually love that. I still listen to like the Clark sisters and like I still listen to Christian music, but that's my perception. Is like Christian people have always, and even when I was Christian, have ran away from being labeled as a Christian rapper and being pigeonholed. That like somebody that was like secular and did an album called Acid Rap was just like, nah, I'm gonna go in. I will label myself Christian rap. And then to see now Kanye doing the Sunday services, it's interesting. How do you feel about the Sunday services?
I think the biggest mistake Christian hip hop made was pulling away from the black gospel community. I think that was the biggest L we've ever taken, because instead of saying, hey man, there's this beautiful art form here that has deep roots. You know what I'm saying? I mean, gospel music is really where we get Western music from.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's where we get all of our pop music is traced back to gospel. You know what I'm saying? Because it went from gospel to blues to rhythm and blues to, you know what I'm saying, James Brown. And a lot of those guys got their start in the black gospel world. You know what I mean? Literally, a lot of those guys started singing in the black gospel church. You know, black gospel
it was
churches.
The only outlet that you could possibly get at the time.
Yeah. And so the fact that we pulled away from that during the cross movement era, which kind of helped co-opt and spark the reformed and reckless like Calvinist movement inside of Christian hip hop, is we said, Kirk and Fred and those guys, their theology is suspect. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna go and follow the Mark Driscolls and the Matt Chandlers and these white dudes.
How is Mark Driscoll? I remember that dude.
We come back to that. Yeah. I met Mark Driscoll a year and a half ago. He's doing great now. He has a new church in Phoenix, and he's doing well.
He's got that raspy voice.
Yeah, great communicator.
Don't jerk off, man.
Yeah. So I think when we made that shift and we went that way, we went to the Calvinist community, the reformed and reckless. I think we played ourselves and we alienated ourselves from that world, which to me would have been a more logical transition, like building in the black church space and the black gospel space, collaborations like that more. And the Truth was doing some of that. I feel like the Truth had some records with Kirk and was doing that kind of stuff. But as a whole, the community went this way and then ended up in this weird CCM, contemporary Christian music, white, you know what I'm saying? Like Air One Radio, Winter Jam, Rock and Road Worship Tour. That's where Lacroix and those guys really built a big chunk of their audience, right? And so they did that, and then what ended up happening was, and we've had Derek Minor on here, we've had Prop on here. What ended up happening was when everything hit the fan with Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown and Black Lives Matter started taking off.
I wasn't even in.
Yeah. So what happened was all of these white evangelical Reformed and Restless churches were completely dismissive of the Black Lives Matter, not movement, but sentiment. Forget the movement, forget the organization, the sentiment. They were dismissive of it. And so then everybody had another faith crisis and started pulling away from those circles, and the whole I'm not a Christian rapper got even more amplified. And so I think we played ourselves
with Trump as well, probably.
Trump, yeah, because that was all back to back to back,
a lot
like
of
2015,
white Christians,
2016.
I mean, there's black Christians vouching for Trump too, but it's a lot of those.
And so I think that was a big mistake. So I think we should have pressed into that earlier. I think in hindsight, man, if I wasn't like that popping back then, but I've reached out to Fred recently about trying to get a record with Fred Hammond, and got a quote, went to a studio and met him, and amazing dude, and I'm working on trying to make that happen. You know what I'm saying?
That'd be beautiful.
Oh man,
I'd start listening to your music.
I know, right? You'll listen to my music.
I listen to your music
a little bit. That would be a dream come true. So I think, yeah, man, I think that was a big mistake. I don't know how many people want to own that mistake, but I think from a market share standpoint, we should have went left, we went right. I didn't because I wasn't deep, but I think as a community we did. I think we played ourselves because of that. Maybe we went more wider and we went more mainstream white churchianity evangelical, but it was
radio friendly.
Radio friendly.
Yeah,
radio
friendly. It's it's nuts, but then like people like Kanye, like Chance, they clinged on to those dudes, and now they're doing records with them.
Yeah, and Chance, I believe, is coming from a sincere place. Like I think Chance had an encounter with God because of his now wife was a devout Christian, you know what I'm saying? And from everything I gather, she's kind of the one that sparked him, helped get him clean, helped get him off the hard drugs he was doing, and in the season of Acid Rap. And I think he had a genuine encounter, and I think he didn't know how to process and where the lines were or whatever. And so a couple months ago, maybe a year ago, that Khaled record where he had the line where he said she likes it, she says she loves that I make music for God. I told her I just want to see that booty applaud. That sparked a good amount of outrage in the Christian hip hop community, specifically Esham Burgundy calling him out on it publicly, and then subsequently.
Isn't that the dude that does all those diss tracks to people? No.
You think about Bizzle, but we're not gonna talk about Bizzle. Okay. That's a friend of mine too. Specifically, Esham Burgundy called him out publicly on it on Twitter and was like, "I don't have no problem with you saying this. It's when you say this and you phrase it along your mantle of being a gospel rapper. That's not okay." And Chance and Esham ended up hopping on the phone together and having a conversation. And I don't know what came out of that conversation, but they ended up having an entire conversation. And Esham was like, "Man, God, God's doing his thing." Da, da, da. So I think in the way that Paul writes, I believe it's in Corinthians where he says, you guys are giving me reports that there's people going around and they're preaching a gospel that's different from my gospel. And he was alluding, I think, to Apollos and these other guys kind of coming up that weren't a part of like the apostolic crew. You know what I mean? And Paul is like, I'm just rejoicing that the gospel is being preached. Mm-hmm. I'm just happy that the gospel is being preached. They're not going to do it perfect. I'm paraphrasing. They're not going to do it perfect. And I don't even know their motives, he says. Some of them may be coming from whack motives, but I'm just happy that the gospel is being preached. And my sentiment would be Kanye, Chance, I'm happy that the public's palate is being shifted in a way where people are more open to hearing Christian content, whether Sunday service or whatever. So that's my position on it. You know what I'm saying? Now, do I co-sign everything Kanye says and does, or everything Chance does? No, but there's very few people that I co-sign everything they do.
It's crazy. When I was working in, this isn't a story related to, kind of like Christian rap, but it kind of has that sentiment. So when I was working in fashion, there was a really big brand in New York at the time, and I was working for a dude that was a friend of theirs, and they all ran in the same circle. And so one night I'm with my ex and with a bunch of like the most poppin' fashion designers around at that time doing streetwear, and they're like legends now. They, you know, one did a talk with, you know, Kanye West or whatever. Mm-hmm. But one of them that works for the fashion house or whatever, he was this gay dude who likes to dress up like a woman a lot, but grew up in the church. Mm-hmm. And like in a similar church that I was in, like a Pentecostal tongue talking church. Mm-hmm. And he was like, why don't you believe anymore? And we were there at like a chicken spot. We were all just grabbing food, and he's like, you you gotta believe. You got nations. I see you preaching to nations. And now every time I see him at like fashion parties, he's like, nations.
For real?
Yeah. It's so funny, man. It's so.
What a trip.
It is a trip, but you just go to see. I mean, he recently dropped a video on Pornhub. Like, he dropped his music video on Pornhub, but he's a very devout Christian. I don't know. I don't know what
I don't know either.
Exactly. I don't know what to make of it, but as I am out in the world and in different places, people that came up in the church that kind of like me can't put it down, because there is it reminds him of home. It reminds him probably of his mother. It reminds him of like growing up and getting ready in the morning and being amongst family. So I can sit here and you can label me on your YouTube channel as the Christian atheist ex-comic who's bad, but I know, but like,
I just literally talked about us going on tour together.
But even now though, like, yeah, I don't believe, but that still doesn't mean that I don't listen to gospel music. I don't walk by a church and be like, I know exactly what they're doing right now. I know exactly where he's at in the sermon. I know that he's going to drive it home and start talking about the crucifixion and how Jesus died in a second, and then do an offering because the people are hot right now. And but, you miss it because you built relationships with people. You lived a certain life. And that's why, I can talk to you about, I like talking about the Christian rap thing. It's such a funny, weird, niche genre. I got a joke about it, and even when I feel cheap telling the joke because I get a laugh on the first sentence, which is, I used to be a Christian rapper. Laugh.
Yeah. I've seen it.
And then I was like, then I talk about the group's name or whatever, and then
was that a real name?
Yes, that was a real name. That was a real
killing
name.
Satan with scripture.
It was Crisis. Christian rappers influenced by scripture, infiltrating Satan. Crisis.
That is so good.
That's how young Christian men think. Is it anagrams?
No.
Or anagrams is when it's...
Yeah, no, that's the new personality thing.
What's it called? I don't know, but each letter has a fucking meaning to the big word. It's so dumb. But, yeah,
that's amazing.
People think of you guys as a joke. No. But people just think that the concept of Christian rap is funny, unless they're getting high and they're watching Chance the Rapper at Coachella. Then they're into it.
Have you seen the new, I don't even know what to call it, like guys that are kind of on the fringes? Not the Chances, but like, because I think, I like Chance, but Chance, Kanye, we would say that there's probably some content, some stuff they do that's kind of coloring outside the lines. I haven't heard any of Chance's new music, so I'm not speaking on anything after Coloring Book. I mean, he dropped a couple singles that I thought were dope, but there's some they're coloring kind of outside of the lines of the Christian parameters of the Christian worldview. But have you checked out like the guys like Toby Ngwagbi?
Toby Keith?
No, not Toby Keith. Toby. I gotta show you some stuff. There's some new stuff coming out that Toby is legitimately, I would say, like the first influencer rapper that's really good. Like, he sounds kind of like Andre 3000 a little bit, has a very good visual aesthetic, and is unapologetically Christian and like not. No Christian festivals, no Christian tours, no Christian features, no Christian anything, and he just did a thing with the Roots. Like he came out with the Roots, and you know what I'm saying. Like we've had the Ahmad Joneses and the 4th Avenue Joneses, but Toby is like a different breed.
But we also got to remember that.
I say that to say I don't think they're laughing at Toby. I don't think they're laughing at Toby.
Clearly I'm joking with you, but when you say Chris, because he probably does it in a way, like you just said, that isn't marketed as Christian rap.
Yeah.
He's unapologetically Christian. Yeah, so is Justin Bieber, you know, but when you say Christian rap, it gets a laugh in 95% of rooms that I've been in.
Which I think is important for all you guys that are like, rep Christian rap, label yourselves Christian rappers. It's important for y'all to know that this is actually how those people who don't follow Jesus view Christian rap, and why so many people are wanting to avoid that label attached to their brand.
Yeah, man, it's toxic. It's a toxic label.
Why is it a toxic label?
I'm just joking.
Oh, okay, you're joking.
Couldn't care less. My listening habits for music are so much different than from when I used to do music. Like there'll be weeks where I'll go and just not have headphones and just be on the train and read, and then I'll like really get into one album. Like I really got into Igor. I really got into Freddie Gibbs recently. Or like I'll get into like a old album, but yeah, my listening habits are just like different. So
any final thoughts or advice for aspiring new emerging Christian rappers?
Hey man, keep it fresh, keep it funky. Don't forget that you're a descendant of the Clark sisters, of Reverend James Cleveland, of just gospel's important, man, and I love gospel music. Christian rap, not so much.
Fair enough. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys are following Rufat Camp. He's hilarious. Let us know what you think about in the comment section. What do you guys think about his views in terms of the CHH thing? Do you think that it's evolved? Are you excited where it's going? Do you think it needs to be more explicitly Christian? I'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for watching this.